If you've got knee pain when you're running, you've probably been told or you've read online that it's something to do with your shoes. Maybe you need more cushioning. You might need stability shoes because you're overpronate. You might have been told that you need insoles inside your shoes, or you might have been told that they've just worn down and you need some more. For most runners, the biggest mistake actually doesn't have anything to do with your shoes. And if you're making this mistake, getting a new pair of shoes isn't going to make any difference. Before we get into it, I've made a little gadget that gives you a recovery score for your knees. So if you've got knee pain, you can fill out a few little questions and it'll give you a score. It will tell you how irritated your knee is, what you can do next, and whether you should stop running or if it's safe to carry on. You can get that in the description below, and I'll give you a little reminder at the end of the video. So the biggest mistake that runners make is that they look for one main cause of the knee pain, and that's normally running shoes. It could be training load. It could be running gait or technique. You might have been told you've got weak glutes, or your glutes aren't active, or your core's weak. You might have even just accepted the fact you've got bad knees. But the reality is, knee pain is probably caused by all those things adding together over time. Think of your knee like a bucket, and every run adds a little bit of water. A hard interval session adds a little bit more. If you've got poor recovery or you don't sleep very well, you add a little bit more. If you're stressed at work or your kids are driving you mad, add another drip. Suddenly increasing the mileage you're doing or going from nothing to training for a marathon, gets loads of water in there. And eventually this bucket starts filling up and there's only so much it can take. So it overflows, and that is essentially your knee pain. So there's a few things we can look at. The first one is your overall training volume. Now, that isn't just how much running you're doing, but it's things like if you're doing lots of hill training, if you're doing lots of tempo work and less easy runs, if you're doing long distances, your overall weekly mileage, if it's the summer and you're doing a lot of races back to back. So looking at your training load as a whole with all those things playing a part, it can be really helpful. Most runners have strong knees and can tolerate stress, but problems occur when that stress is too much for the body to handle. And the rate at which it can recover isn't quite as high as the rate at which you're loading it. So if you're doing more runs, less recovery, then you're going to cause pain. So if your ability to recover is here, but you're training really high, your training load's really high, then that is a mismatch, and that's what causes injury. So if we can either increase the recovery or the ability for the body to cope with load and kind of keep that training load level, then perfect. But if we can't, and your ability to recover is there, then we can just reduce the mileage a little bit until they're at a level point. Which brings us nicely onto recovery. And recovery is made up of three main pillars. The first one's sleep, the second one's nutrition, and the third one is recovery itself, so active recovery or complete rest days. If we can make sure that we're getting plenty of sleep, 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, make sure we're getting a balanced diet with more carbs and protein to help your body recover from the training, and then that we're giving ourselves adequate gaps in between sessions for our body to recover. That might not be as long if you've done an easy run as it is if you've done a hard high tempo run or a hard interval session where you may need a little bit longer to recover. And I mentioned earlier about how strong your body is and how it can tolerate load. Well, if we can increase that capacity, then we can manage more training load. So if your body's more resilient, it's going to be able to cope with more running. Now I know runners traditionally don't like strength training, but it's the only way we can increase the body's capacity to train. So if we get your body nice and strong, especially sort of the quads, hamstrings, glutes and calves, then when you are pounding the pavement or running up hills or running cross country, then your body structures are more tolerant to what you're putting them through. So if you've got a really strong knee, every time we're taking those steps and putting load through the muscles and the connective tissues, then it's going to be able to manage that load a lot better. Now another one that I mentioned earlier and is really important but often overlooked is just stress. Daily life stress. Your body as a whole doesn't know the difference between being stressed at work or stressed through exercise. And this could lead on to things like stress with the children. If you're not getting a lot of sleep because your kids are up all night, or you've got a new baby and you're not getting a lot of sleep, or your teenager's doing your head in, and again, you're a little bit stressed. This goes into a busy schedule, which can be a combination of everything: work, children, travel, other commitments. That is stressful. Could be travel if you're traveling a lot, whether that's to a different place to live, or if you're going on holiday, or you're traveling with work. Travel is just not very nice. Nobody really likes it. And if that has a knock-on effect to other things like sleep, if you're traveling into sort of a bed or an environment you're not used to, then that has an effect to sleep. We all know if we stay in a hotel, sometimes we don't sleep very well because it's not a natural habitat, if you like. It's not the bed we're used to, it's not the pillows we're used to, the temperature might be different, it could be noisy, and then obviously that has a knock-on effect to how we recover. And as a dad of a 1-year-old child, I can tell you, you don't get a lot of sleep. If you're not getting a lot of sleep, I can sympathise, because it is hell sometimes. And that has a knock-on effect. If you're waking up feeling groggy and you're going out for a run, you don't feel right, you feel lethargic, you ache a little bit more. So those kind of stresses have a massive effect on how you can train and ultimately how you recover. So if you're struggling with knee pain as a runner, stop trying to look for one single cause that you can tackle and your knee pain will go away, because it probably doesn't exist. Start looking at everything as a bigger picture. Look at stress, recovery, training load, nutrition, and try and work out what combination of these things is leading to my recovery being worse and ultimately causing my knee pain. Because on the face of it, if you think I'm only getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night, that's not causing my knee pain, then it would make sense. It doesn't sound like it does. But when you think of the bigger picture, and that sleep causes poor recovery, which prevents your knee being able to adapt to what you're putting it through, then it all kind of starts making a little bit more sense. And that's normally where the answer is. Not one thing, but a combination of different things. So if you're struggling with knee pain at the minute, you're not sure how irritated it is, if you should be running or not, get your knee pain recovery score in the link below and go from there. I've suffered with knee pain in the past from running, and it wasn't because I went out and did too much straight away. It wasn't because I was eating poorly. It wasn't because I wasn't sleeping very well. It was a combination of all of them put together, and eventually that knee pain just crept up and crept up and crept up, and pow, gets you. So, and the best way to manage it is to assess everything at once and kind of take a holistic approach in leveling them all out. You might only be able to adapt little bits at a time, not sort of solve everything at once, but that all starts to compound and just improves the picture as a whole, and your knee pain will reduce and you'll feel better, and that will benefit your running. So hopefully that helped. If you want to learn more about knees or any other kind of running injury, have a look at this video, because it's what YouTube recommends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.